Child of the Wolves, Chapter 16, page 96, Tragedy. It was a time of endless night. Only a thin sliver of moon hung overhead, and the black sky burned with the cold fire of stars. The wolves ran along a packed drift at the base of the mountain, avoiding the trail where the snow was soft. Beneath the white blanket, ground squirrels and marmots slept snug in their burrows. The moon had come and gone several times since the bears disappeared into their dens. Granite ran in front of Breeze, where he did not have to fear Strider's nips and Roamer's shoves. The pack was headed for the banks of a frozen river, where they hoped to find moose who had come to graze on willow twigs and branches. As the wolves ran, streaks appeared overhead. At first, Granite ignored them. Then he paused and fell out of line. Planting his feet in the snow, he threw back his head and stared. The heavens blazed with color. Green streamers spread across the sky, pulled back and spread wide once more. Bands of red, yellow, and green appeared. The banners of light pulsed across the sky like writhing snakes. Granite was amazed at the display, but the wolves paid little attention. They had seen it many times before. In the strange light, Granite could see the wolves strung out before him, dark against the glistening snow. Breeze had stopped so the dog could enjoy the sight, but soon she urged him on. They hurried to catch up with the running pack. Long before Granite could make out the clumps of willow, Ebony stopped, turned toward the river, and raised his head. His ears went forward. Sniffing deeply, he stared into the night. The rest of the pack turned in the same direction. Carried by the wind, the scent of moose filled their heads. Ebony consulted briefly with the wolves, then advanced toward the source of the smell. They followed, tails wagging. Granite could feel excitement spread along the line of running wolves. His mouth suddenly grew dry. Without breaking stride, he grabbed a mouthful of snow. As they neared the river, Granite saw the black mass of willow on the far bank. The moose were there. To reach them, the pack would have to cross to the other side. Now, close to the prey, Ebony slowed his pace. Peering intently ahead, he led the wolves onto the ice. At this point, the river was so wide that the whole pack, loping single file, was on the river at one time. Ebony chose his path with care, traveling where the snow lay thick. He was only a few strides from the far bank when he hit an icy patch where the wind had blown away the snow cover. He slipped, fell heavily on his shoulder, and slid 3 wolf lengths. Snowdrift, who was behind him, slipped but did not fall. The other wolves, warned by Ebony's tumble, slowed. With toes spread wide, they picked their way across the icy section and up the other side. Ebony got to his feet, his coat matted with snow. With care, he moved across the ice. As he climbed the bank, he whimpered. Snowdrift was at his side, whining with concern. She licked his face, then nosed his body. When she touched his left shoulder, Ebony yelped. The commotion alerted the moose. They got to their feet but did not flee. Shoulder to shoulder they stood in the willow grove, dark forms looming above the dark bushes. Motionless they watched. There were more moose than wolves. The pack gathered around the big black wolf. He motioned, indicating that they should get on with the hunt. The wolves started toward the moose. Snowdrift trotted along the river bank, ahead of Roamer and Granite. Strider led Breeze and Climber along the far side of the willow thicket. Unable to keep up, Ebony followed at a distance. In a few seconds, they reached the moose. Snowdrift and Strider paused, heads down. The moose stared impassively at the wolves. They stared back. The pack waited. They waited for signs of faltering, hoping to discover a sick or injured animal. If the moose stood their ground, the wolves would look elsewhere for dinner. At last, one of the moose bolted. The snow was so deep that for the first few steps, the moose struggled on its knees. The wolves broke into a run. Plunging through snow that reached their chests, they moved faster than the moose. As the distance narrowed, a feeling of certain victory swept over the excited pack. The moose burst free of the thicket. In a few steps, it reached a place where the snow was not so deep. With firm footing, the moose's pace quickened. Suddenly, Climber sprinted ahead of Strider. With a great leap, he threw himself at the moose. His move came as a surprise. Snowdrift and Strider should have attacked first. No one understood why Climber broke ranks. Perhaps he was trying to show his father that he was ready to lead a hunt. Perhaps he thought that with Ebony disabled, he was needed. Perhaps his reckless nature overcame his allegiance to pack rules. The attack might have worked, but just as Climber sprang at the moose, it wheeled about and lashed out with its forelegs. The sharp hooves struck Climber in the head. He collapsed in the snow. As Granite watched in disbelief, Climber struggled once to rise, then sank back. All thoughts of the hunt left the dog's mind. Ignoring the moose, he ran to Climber's still form. Granite licked his face, but the wolf did not respond. There was a deep depression between his eyes where the deadly hoof had struck. The moose spread its legs wide and waited for another attack. None came. The pack pulled back. Ebony never attacked a fighting moose, and neither Snowdrift nor Strider would do so. Frightened by Climber's stillness, Granite looked around for Snowdrift. She was already at his side. After sniffing Climber's head, she tried to rouse him with her tongue. He did not move. Snowdrift threw back her head and howled in despair. Another of her children was gone.